Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And guess what, folks? It's another Monday. We have all kinds of amazing topics left, right, and center. The Game Awards is hot and upon us. And Jez Corden stoking the fires as he does on the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor. And we had heard from Jez that that Xbox is going to be there in a big way. The question is, how big? And of course, I have to add a pause to that. And of course, we're going to be breaking down. We know Baldur's Gate 3 is getting an announcement trailer for Xbox Series X and S at the Game Awards because Larian Studios told us so. The bigger question, is it going to drop into Game Pass? And well, we'll get to that in a hot second. And of course, as expected, as I called it, like I saw it in my magic crystal ball, ladies and gentlemen, the gaming media hates Call of Duty. And according to Game Rant and several others, well, guess what? It's dead. Why are you playing it? We need to move on, according to Game Rant. But we will get into all of that shenanigans, if you will. Now, I know there is a lot of stuff breaking with OpenAI, right? Obviously, on Friday, they fired the founder of the company. The board actually fired the founder. There are currently 500 employees there, and those 500 employees are threatening to quit unless the board resigns. That story is breaking as we speak. What I'm going to do, and that it does have something to do with gaming, but it kind of doesn't. So what we may do is wait until the dust kind of settles and maybe talk about this with Hargeet and the rest of our panel members for Primetime Gaming. And tomorrow we have a loaded show. So I don't know if we have such great topics for tomorrow. I don't know if I want to sneak that in. I kind of want to wait for the OpenAI situation to kind of, settle the dust and to get some experts in that. Obviously Everborn Saga is a big expert for that, as well as Kayasante. So I'd really like to sit down with those gentlemen, including Hargeet, and get their opinion on how this is ultimately going to affect Xbox, because that's really what we're here to talk about. When Microsoft does, yes, I know it's part of Xbox and everything, but it would be great to have that conversation right before Thanksgiving and what the ramifications of it are. But Louis is unfortunately running behind. We'll get him here hopefully before the end of the show. But let's welcome in Web Dave, sir. How the heck are you? And how did Sunday's show go, by the way?
It was good. We had the Mag and Wandering Dutch, and and the Mag was in rare form, showing off his his OnlyFans page. I mean, his pony. I mean, no. Wait. Anyway,
was he
so
wearing a
was
unicorn
he,
horn?
He wasn't, but we put a lot of pictures up for him and made sure everybody saw him.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good time. It was a little great discussion, and Retcher was on point, and it was really good. And of course, just to let everybody know, there will be a show this coming Sunday. We're going to have Hargeet on, and who knows what else. It's going to be good.
Nice.
Yep.
Well,
looking forward to today's show, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you back, sir. We're going to get into it in a second, but let's welcome in the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, Fuzzy Belvedere, kind sir. How are you feeling this bright Monday morning?
I'm feeling great. Glad to be here with you guys. Man, it's like you said with the whole AI thing. It's unfolding right before our eyes, and yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But with the Game Awards around the corner, Xbox being there, and they're going to probably be there in a big way, it should be real interesting to see if we have another unveiling of the Series X type of moment or something along those lines. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Well, listen, let's rip this Band-Aid right off and go right into the Game Awards. Now, obviously, there is still a lot of stout debate. This week's Living Split Screen, and I know I see in there Steel Rain, my brother, was probably one of the best shows that they've done all year. Him and Pong had a lot of topics, but the specific one that I listened to as I was, I'm the sous chef when it comes to cooking, so I'm doing all the preparing for Mrs. Boom because obviously we're hosting Thanksgiving. I cut the lemons, I squeeze out the juice. That's what I was doing. So while I was doing that, while my car was at the dealer, I was listening to it, and it was just phenomenal. And some of the points that they brought up were so good that I thought, because I know obviously, Dave, you're going to be with family on Friday. Fuzzy, I don't know what your schedule is going to be, but obviously if you're with family, it's fine. I am still doing a modified breakfast with Boom. I do have one special guest, Pong Soul, will be joining me. Steele, I'll reach out to you and see if you can join them. See if we can get one or two other people to pop on with us. Just kind of have a hangout kind of conversation on Black Friday, and to keep people entertained, because we're obviously taking off for Thanksgiving. But there is. Look, I really want to kind of just reiterate this, folks. I don't really think that when you listen to a lot of the Xbox community, a lot of the content creation community, is anyone quote unquote angry. I don't think anyone is angry because your favorite game of the year, for me, it's Starfield. It basically just was snubbed. It was worthy of basically it gets one nod, and it's almost like a participation trophy. That's to me what it really was. And I'm disappointed in the system. I really thought that the way Pong Soul and Steel Rain kind of broke it down with getting an actual panel of professionals of in the industry that would elevate the Game Awards. Because the Game Awards, listen, like I said, I give Jeff a lot of credit for what he's done over the years to make gaming mainstream. I want that to be clear. I have no distaste for Jeff Keighley as a person, because I don't know him personally. I'm disappointed that as a host, he kind of he blurs the line a little bit. Like, for instance, some of the things I don't like, when I say he's stoking the fire, I mean that he's inciting. I don't think it's even more so. It's not just conversation he's inciting. He's inciting the console wars, because he gets out there and he's consistently putting out there, oh, well, what game do you thought? What game did you think got snubbed? Or, could it have been better? Could we have? And then he gets out on Sunday and he puts out this tweet trying to calm this raging fire that he literally started. But the constant tweets, what did you think happened? Are you satisfied? Did the Game Awards miss something? You're asking these questions because you're trying to incite engagement. I understand engagement, folks. I have my own YouTube channel. I have to do my own advertising. We do the things we do to engage with the community. I don't incite console wars. I just don't. Like, Friday's show was a bit of if we had fun with it. A lot of people got really in their feelings about calling the PlayStation Portal, the potty thing. It was all fun and games. You shouldn't have taken serious. Some people did. Some people unsubbed because of it. It's fine. Listen, no one wants to lose subs, but if you got upset because of that, then what can I tell you? But we did have some laughs, and really, ultimately, that's what we're supposed to do. Like if Microsoft were to do something dumb like that, I'd be the first one out there giving them the business, because, well, that's just what we do here. So the disappointment for a lot of Xbox gamers who felt that if there was going to be a year that Microsoft, and no one's suggesting. So that's the thing and I'm sorry, I'm kind of bumbling the words here, because I kind of want to make sure that I express this correctly. I don't think that, or I'm not suggesting that because a Bethesda joint released and it's their first new IP in 2.5 decades, and it's Todd Howard's magnum opus, if you will, that it should have won every category that it was in. I'm not suggesting. This year is bombastic, and it is probably only rivaled by 2007 when you look at how many outstanding games on every platform. Even Sony, you could say what you want about Spider-Man. It's a great 8.5 out of 10. That's where it is. That's where it lives for me, and that's fine. But when Nintendo had a great representation with two major IPs, Xbox had they had a lot of really great games this year. And a third party was just ridiculous, right? So much so that most people didn't even finish half the games that they started, because there's just literally too much to play. But no one likes to see the way. Look, the industry is skewed, folks. Okay, it is. And I'm gonna pull a page right out of Living Split Screen, which, by the way, you should be subbed and you should listen to this week's show. Was phenomenal. And Steel Rain specifically said, how are we supposed to believe that if there is favoritism, if there is bias in the Grammys or at the Oscars or at pick your outside of gaming, award show, if we know for a fact that that exists there, how could we with a straight face suggest that that is not present in gaming? Like, think about that for a second. If you're going to turn around and you're going to be in the camp where you say, oh man, the artist A got robbed, man, their album was just fantastic, I can't believe they lost to artist Z. And you're like, well, there's something's afoot here, right? There's something's afoot. If the bias that we are insinuating exists in gaming, and we know that it does, because obviously, thanks to Pong Soul reiterating it again, Hogwarts is the perfect example of real life bias, right? These people pretended. Now, whether it's all 120 people or Jeff completely as the head, the producer of this show, was like, this game does not get in because of this. Now, I don't know. Maybe he will tell us one day. Maybe someone on that 120 people, 120 judges will come out and be like, yeah, I didn't agree with it, but there's nothing I can do because it was started at the top, and the top said this one thing. Put it in the box, close the box, dig the hole, bury the box, doesn't exist. Right? I don't know. I mean, if you folks know, please by all means let me know, because I don't. But that's what it seems like. So now we come to the topic, folks. Sorry for the long, drawn out, long-windedness of it. Is Mrs. Boom says, Sha, I love you, but you're very long-winded. Listen, that's just what I do. Sorry for the Metal Gear stuff. So I'm going to go first here to Fuzzy Belvedere, because there's a lot of talk in the community about how does Xbox respond? Because what it comes down to is money, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. I don't think they're in a position to cut their nose off to spite their face, so to speak. They're still in third place. Now, obviously, tomorrow we're going to be talking about how adding Activision, Blizzard, and King to Activision per se, to Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, and what that means for Xbox as a whole. They're actually projected, thanks to a story that comes out of the way of Jez Corden of Windows Central, that they're going to beat PlayStation in earned monies for the first time ever. Like, we're going to cover that in real depth tomorrow on the Xbox Factor podcast. My question to you, Fuzzy Belvedere, is, we know that they're in third place now. We know that there's an inherent bias for a multitude of reasons, some of which is, well, people in the industry are fans of PlayStation. That's their brand, so they feel a type of way, and that's great. There's others that feel a distaste for Microsoft as a whole, because they bought two major players in the gaming industry with Bethesda 2 years ago, and of course now the ABK deal that has been approved. And we know that they're hunting. They're in predator mode, like literally right now on the cover. So we don't know who else they have purchased. Maybe they've purchased 6 studios at this point, and they're all under a threshold that they don't have to make an announcement until 2024. And they say, hey, boom, here you go. New six studios joined XGS. So we know that there are journalists, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know for sure, but there are certain journalists that have hedged their distaste for Microsoft just buying their way into becoming, rubbing shoulders with PlayStation, rubbing shoulders with Apple, and rubbing shoulders with Google, and rubbing shoulders with Steam. Like, this one purchase literally gets them up to the front line with all of these big entities.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I have for the chat and the question I have for the panel is, well, Microsoft, they're going to come up a little short this year in voting. And I know that they have just as many, nods as like PlayStation if you remove the VR and the movies that Sony has been being represented. But it seems like a year they could have had a lot more. Do you, as the head of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, say, you know what, we're going to show up in the biggest way forward. We're going to drop trailers for games that are years out. They put a gear, like I'm suggesting that I think that there could be a Gears of War 6 trailer. Why not? We haven't heard anything in years from the coalition. We know that they were working on a couple of projects. One got canceled. One suggested that it was outside of Gears, and we don't know for sure. What do you think? What if I'm giving you the reins? Here you go. I'm Fuzzbilder. You're now head of Microsoft Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
How do you combat the distaste that has been brought to everyone's attention thanks to the gaming media? And if we know that there are every year millions more watch this show. It goes up sometimes 1 million, sometimes it's 3 million, sometimes it's 5 million that it's gone up. That's a lot of eyeballs, but there's also a lot of normies that watch this because it's a well-publicized game show and people like award shows. Mm-hmm. How big do you go here, man?
It all depends. Like, I think it depends on what you focus on as far as what you show. Like for me, I would want, if the Game Pass family plan is something that's in the near future, definitely do an unveiling here and letting people know, some of your favorite games like Call of Duty and Madden and 2K, make it into Game Pass for this monthly subscription fee type of thing. Drive that home, because that's where, like you said, a lot of the normies or the casual gamers will watch a show like this more so than, let's say, the enthusiasts. So that would be a time to kind of grab their attention as far as your plan moving forward to get them into the ecosystem. The other thing that you want to do is, if it's a game that you're going to show, make sure it's something that you could probably launch that same day. I'm not saying you have to always do a hi-fi rush type of move, but that, I think, as we saw, it didn't have enough time in the media's hands for them to nitpick until after the fact. But at that point, a lot of people were praising it for the fact that they actually had hands-on at the same time as the media. So it wasn't like the media could definitely, take their somewhat biased spin to it and be like, oh, this is great for an Xbox game, but if it was a Nintendo game, nobody wants to hear that at that point, because everybody's playing it and enjoying it. So having something you could shadow drop possibly would be huge. I don't know if they have anything in the back pocket to do that for like this game award show, but that's something that you definitely want to put there on the table per se, type of thing for the show.
Well, can I throw this out here to you, because you're making great sense. So if again, we're going to get into it, because actually we're going to segue into it, but maybe Microsoft doesn't have anything first party ready to go like what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But I think that, and by all means, I'm making some pretty big suggestions here. I feel Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be the big winner of the night. Again, folks, understand it's not a game for Boom, but Larian Studios has done something. They've nurtured this game. It's been in early access for years, and the community made Baldur's Gate what it is, thanks to all of the the constant input. And Larian Studios then took the input and they put that work into the game. The game is phenomenal. Again, it's not for me, but I'm going to be honest with you. If in the same year that it wins Game of the Year, it wins RPG of the year, it wins Score of the Year. Let's say, for instance, it walks away with 4 or 5 out of the 7 noms, right? If that's announced at the Game Awards as dropping into Game Pass day and date, that's, to me, as big as you could possibly get. But please continue.
No, that totally makes sense. I mean, even if they could bring in like a couple of years ago, Sekiro was like the Game of the Year. Having that, make its way into Game Pass, or even Elden Ring make its way into Game Pass. Like, with the exception of ones on the opposing platform, if you want to say, hey, you want a subscription service that is filled with Game of the Year candidates or Game of the Year winners, Game Pass is for you, kind of thing. So if they would have put that type of spin, yeah, it might come across as throwing some shade to some extent, but I think that would make perfect sense as far as attracting the casual player or gamer that might be watching the show and then see that Game of the Year award, and then they're like, well, should I spend 60 or 50 or whatever and play this on PC or my PS5? Or, oh wait, I could spend $16 and get it access for the 1 month, or just do the reoccurring thing and have unlimited access to hundreds of other games. I think that's a good move, or would be a good move for them to make. But I also think there at some point there's going to be one of two hardware paths that they probably should lean a little more into, whether it's a let and this is, I don't have any inside info, but let's just say, for example, you know how there's accessories that are designed for Xbox or something like that, with like the B&O headset. Let's say the what do you call it, the Steam Deck OLED is one of those items where they have their own version, and you can order it today, and maybe if you already have a Game Pass subscription, you save an extra $50 or something to that effect, or whatever the case may be. I think having something like that, or I know they said that they aren't interested in doing a pro model, because in all honesty, the Series X is kind of like a mid-gen refresh, but it was at launch type of deal. If they have their refresh console, the one that was kind of like more of that cylinder shape one, maybe they show that, and maybe it's since it's discless, maybe it's a little more than $100 off of the current Series X price type of thing. But whatever the case may be, I think either showing some hardware, definitely focusing on like the Game Pass and what's newly coming to Game Pass, and maybe a shadow drop type of thing. I think any of those things will help take away maybe some of the sting of the conversation of why Xbox didn't have a stronger showing as far as awards or nominations in comparison. I think at that point it would be more about, oh, did you see that they have this in Game Pass, or that they're releasing this hardware just in time for the holidays, and things along those lines. And it kind of changes the overall perspective, and people are more focused on what they might be putting under the tree or in the stocking, or however they acquire things for the holidays type of deal. But I think that would be probably one of the better approaches for them to take, just short of shunning them or shunning the media. I mean, that's really not going to get them anywhere. I would say, if anything, being more inclusive as far as like whether it's smaller publications and things like that, I think would be a good way to focus some of your future endeavors as far as early access, or like first first hands on, as opposed to necessarily your IGNs and things like that. But we'll see how they move.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting, because we know that, thanks to Phil Spencer, and during that interview where he said, "Hey, listen, we are in a position now," and obviously Matt Booty got some backlash for it when they said this in 2022, that we literally have so many games that we just don't know where to put everybody, right? And that, unfortunately, 2022 wasn't the greatest of years, because it was a year that they had practically nothing. They released 4 games, and they didn't even, they were not what they expected, because everything got canceled. Right. I went back and forth with Paul Tassi on that, because Paul Tassi is, again, I like Paul. I like his work a lot, actually. And we kind of, I don't want to say we went back and forth. We didn't. We weren't arguing with each other. He had put out a tweet saying that it's maybe it's an Xbox quality problem, why they had no representation this year in the Game Awards, because during DICE in 2022 they didn't have any representation either, and it started out with the DICE nods. And I said, well, Paul, I think that's an incredibly unfair comparison, because they had no games in 2022. The only first party game was Pentiment, And we heard what Josh Shore had to say about that. The game, didn't make it in time for the Game Awards because it didn't. The cutoff date, the cutoff date really doesn't exist. It's just a number. So at the end of the day, he didn't take the time to read my whole tweet, because I went and I looked at everything that was acknowledged. It was acknowledged in many other places, just not the Game Awards. So he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read the thing." I'm like, "No, it's cool, Paul. There's no harm, no foul. We're not looking for. I never intended to look for an argument. I don't want to fight with anybody. I just want to have a conversation." And we're at a crossroad here, Fuzzy Belvedere, because we know, thanks to Phil Spencer, that for the next 3 years, they have lined up 4 blockbuster title, 4 AAA blockbusters. Those are his words, not mine, folks. Per year, which equals out to 1 AAA banger per quarter. Now, what does that list look like? Well, I mean, we know a lot that's coming out. We know a lot that's coming out next year. We know that we're getting a new Call of Duty. Potentially, it's going to be the new. It's going to be the sequel to Black Ops. I think it's going to be It's going to encompass the Gulf War. Right, that's the rumor. Right, that's one. You're obviously going to have Avowed, and you're going to have Hellblade. That's 3. Towerborn is the 4th. Now, Towerborn, it's not first party, but it's an exclusively developed game for Xbox. That's not coming to anyone else. And that's your 4. Now, I'm in the camp that we could see an Exiles game released next year. Some people disagree with me. Some people agree with me. It's fine. But I tell you what we do know for a fact, and it's been running rampant since Saturday, that Wolverine is not expected until holiday of 2025 at the earliest. That has been confirmed by numerous sources. So what that says is that Sony for next year. Well, I mean, listen, I saw people joking about it, and I'm not really. I'm kind of seriously joking. The Last of Us remake, Last of Us Part 2 remake, game of the year. It's already gotten in there. The game's not even out. That's
hey,
fact.
RE got that nod this year, so why couldn't that?
Why quit there? Yeah. So we know. So you're also going to get the Horizon Zero Dawn remake for the PlayStation 5. Don't be surprised if that's not in there as well. It's just, listen, it is what it is. I think that Microsoft just has to accept that they're just not going to be given the same fair playing field at the Game Awards, no matter what they do. And even if next year Senua was a 9 out of 10, and Avowed is a 9 out of 10, and Towerborn is a 10 out of 10, and Call of Duty is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're just not going to get the same kind of conversation until they are just hitting they're literally hitting so hard pause that you cannot ignore them. So I expect the 2024 Game Awards to be exactly like the Game Awards for 2023. They'll get some nominations. They'll have people trying to defend, well, Microsoft needs to show up better, need to be put better games out there. In regards to this show, though, I kind of wonder if they are forced into kind of tipping their hand a bit, say, "Oh, you want to see what we have? Is that what this is about?" So, Dave, I want to bring you in on the conversation. But before I do, I want to catch up on a couple of the super chats that have popped in here. First of all, Scott Woodford drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Microsoft just add OpenAI founder. Wonder if he will help with AI in games. There's no doubt that is what is going to happen at some point. Obviously, AI from Microsoft is incredibly important. They are leading everyone around the world in, with this company in OpenAI, which I don't know how long the company is going to be, a thing anymore, because they're losing. Everybody was like, this guy is great. The board fired him, and people were like rioting in the streets for the company. So don't be surprised if this company takes a dump, and the board then goes with it, and then all those employees come and become Microsoft employees, and well, there you go. Boss Modley, the Papa, shout out to you, brother. He's been a channel member for 50 freaking months. That is insane, dude. I'm glad they arrived, brother. We'll talk. And Drawn TJ, Jennifer's friend of the program, drops a $2 super chat and says, bundle the Series S or X with LG OLED or Samsung OLED. They used to do that. I mean, they have a couple of bundles right now. Like the Series X is $100 off, and the Series S comes with, I think it's like 278, and I think it comes with 3 months of Xbox Game Pass, which is great for the 512, the old school white one. So there's going to be deals all over the place. They're, like I said, this year they're going to sell some consoles, but ultimately you're going to see the change happen the minute the next Call of Duty, whatever that's going to be, is not going to be advertised by Sony. It's just not. And Sony, and they know that. It's going to be a much different conversation this time next year, whether or not the Game Awards actually gives Microsoft or specifically Xbox their flowers. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have any faith in the system, at least not the system that Jeff Keighley has made. It's flawed. It's broken. I don't know how these people are picked. I know that when you have Metro UK doing a review for something like Hi-Fi Rush, which by all means it got 5 nods, and that's great for that team. But it should have run the gambit. It's an amazing original title with a soundtrack that's killer. It's got endearing characters. It's got a great story. It looks beautiful. It was one of the most perfect games ever, I think, in many, many years released with practically no bugs. So when you have Metro UK saying that we would love to give this a higher score, but we can't because unfortunately Microsoft has not put out enough first-party games, so we're going to detract from it. Now I'm saying that, but that's what was in the review. I'm not making that up. Go look for it. So my whole point here is, how can that entity in Metro UK, which is a complete rubbish of a newspaper or a gaming site, have a say on and be a part of that 120 entities that vote on these things? Like, see, that to me is weird. They have an inherent bias. One company is not judged the same way. I mean, we heard Larry Herb say that we know that Nintendo and PlayStation are, unfortunately, have a different yardstick than we do. He said that. I know it's an old interview, but that's how they feel then, and I'm sure that's how they feel now. Dave, my question to you is: do you shove it down their throat? Do you go to the Game Awards and you're like, you know what? We're going to make them love us because we're going to have so many great titles and that we're going to have so many things going, and the other competitors are just not. And again, I'm really kind of removing Nintendo because not that they're not a competitor, Dave. They have a new console coming out next year and probably a new 3D Mario, which is going to be in the Game of the Year running again. But Nintendo has always done their own thing. I'm just talking exclusively when it comes to PlayStation, because even some of these journalists look at Nintendo as a kid's toy rather than an actual competitor. How do you approach these Game Awards?
Well, I think I said a little bit the other day on your show that I think what they need to do is to absolutely saturate the Game Awards. I mean, every break should be an ad for Game Pass, literally, and not only that, but deep dive commercials into explaining how Game Pass works and how it benefits you, the consumer, how much money you save, and some of the amazing content that's in there. Hundreds and hundreds of games available with new ones added every month, and just show that. And then maybe even during that, if because they got things in the works already, and they said they weren't going to announce some things till next year, but maybe even drop the bomb and say, oh, and by the way, starting in January, every Call of Duty game ever made will be available in Game Pass at no extra cost. Just that kind of bombshell like that would be like, holy crap. That would really it would really hit home and it push it so hard, man. I mean, push everything And if you got other big stuff coming, and let everybody know, you know, where you can get Call of Duty, where you can, you know, can get all these other great games, and if you got some kind of inkling as to things that they're working on with maybe StarCraft, do a little tease just to get the, oh my god, can you imagine? Even if they just, you know, coming in, you
Dude,
know,
they
in
could
the
pull a
future.
Nintendo. Remember when Nintendo threw up the Metroid 4
Yes,
Metroid 4 Prime logo, and it was
just the
like
logo.
they won. They won the E3. Oh my god, pack it in. I don't care what
Yep.
else anyone, right? If they, I
Yeah.
put it to this way, you see, you're onto something here.
Oh
You're
man.
talking about taking a beloved IP that people have been asking for
Mm-hmm.
years to
Yep.
come back, and you just throw a star. I mean, even if it's a remake of the of like 2 or one of the original ones
Yeah.
coming to PC, coming to Xbox, launching, they have a new mobile version. You put that out there,
Yeah.
even if it's years away.
Yeah. And they don't even have to be real specific. Just that StarCraft is coming to Game Pass. Hold on to your horses. I mean, or something, you know, just anything like that. And you said this before, and I guarantee you, we know in our hearts that it's in the works, that there's going to be some kind of Game Pass mobile. They need to start flushing that out, dropping that in. I would love, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but they've done their testing on Game Pass Family. It's time for them to absolutely unleash, especially at the holidays. Can you imagine right there at the Game Awards? Oh, by the way, starting today, Game Pass Family is available. Great for the holiday gift giving. You know, give Game Pass all year. When, you know, give the options of all these great games coming, and save yourself a lot of money. I mean, there could be just so much stuff that they could do to, you know, get the whole family involved. All of you play games, blah blah blah. And what it includes is this, and this. You know, Game Pass PC, mobile, all that. I mean, it's just that's my thing that I think they should do is just absolutely throw the kitchen sink at the award show. If they've got, even if it's just, you know, some stuff that we know is maybe coming out. But yeah, and if there's already they've got in mind that there's going to be some kind of I guess was it Programmers Direct that they
You mean
did last
Developers
year?
Direct?
Developers
Yes. Yeah.
Direct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even tease, you know, hey, coming in January, look for, you know, this at the Gamers Direct, or just, you know, or Deep in Dive, and you know, just let them just, and hell, even if they've got some of these studios they've already purchased, you know, maybe even Phil come out there and be like, oh, I know this is normally where we would do this, but oh, by the way, you know, we now have blah 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 and all this, you know, different studios, and just name off a bunch of them, and just, you know, we're in gaming to stay, we're in the gaming, you know, for you, because we're gamers too, or something shit like that. Just to, there's so much stuff that they could do. Or
Well, I
wouldn't
mean,
it be nice? Last,
one of the things that jumped. Yeah. Yeah. Continue, Dave. Good.
so the last thing I'll say is, wouldn't it be nice if they were like, oh, by the way, we paid for the marketing rights for Grand Theft Auto 6.
I mean
Enjoy.
well, I think it was already debunked that they were going to show the trailer there. I think
Right.
Rockstar actually came out and said that they're not showing, which is I don't know if that's. I mean, again, maybe that's.
Maybe they think they're big enough they don't need it.
I don't think that they need it, to be
Right.
honest with you. I honestly, I don't think that they need it. I think that Jeff would have loved it there
Mm-hmm.
because it would have been the show that would have broke numbers left, right, and center. My thinking, and again, this is a bit of a sidebar here. The fact that Grand Theft Auto is not going to be at the Game Awards, it's one of two things. Either Rockstar, and specifically Take Two, they're just so big that they're going to do their own thing, or there's an announcement coming from Microsoft that they're going to do another partners presentation,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they show the trailer as being marketed by Xbox. Like I said, folks, you know my feelings. I spent almost an hour like sometime one of the shows last week that is, to me, I understand it's going to cost a lot of money, probably about $500 million for that marketing. But I'm here to tell you that from a businessman, and I don't have a degree, folks. So by all means, if I sound like an idiot, please,
You don't.
shout me out. I'm just saying that if we're talking about mind share, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sony is the market leader today. That is not going to be the case. And I told you, I'm very serious about this. I gave them a 12-month window. The doomsday clock for PlayStation in first place is over, folks.
Hmm.
And it's actually happening sooner than I originally predicted because with the news story from Jez Corden that we will break down tomorrow, Microsoft, Xbox is actually going to make more money than PlayStation for the first time ever. Right? That's like a thing,
Hmm.
folks. So if you're winning now with that, if you are leapfrogging Sony in made monies, and that means, of course, everything. That's Game Pass, that's console sales, that's video, that's sales digitally and physically. If you are leapfrogging them now with what you have out this year, can you imagine, folks, that the year that Call of Duty comes out, which is, from what we understand, is not going to be next year, it's going to be 2025, which gives
Hmm.
it another 2 years. But just think for a second, in a year that we might see a new Call of Duty on any box that they put out there, it's going to have Call of Duty, whatever the hot Xbox first party title is. Maybe it's Master Chief, maybe it's Doom, maybe it's Senua, whatever. And then on the third panel, it's Grand Theft Auto. You are going to immediately turn and shift the normies' heads from PlayStation to Xbox because they
Hmm.
have no loyalty. They could care less about the console wars. We are in the trenches. They're just I'm not even being insulting. They're casuals for a reason, folks. And they will go where their money is more valuable to them. And right now that is Xbox Game Pass. And when you can put, on front on your header that you have Call of Duty, you have Grand Theft Auto, people are going to move over in droves, man. And
In
and this
droves.
isn't an investment that, again, no one that's calling these, like, Amy Hood is not listening to this podcast. But if she were, that would be my pitch. You understand the power of Grand Theft Auto. If you understand that power, you understood that power for Call of Duty, which is why you bought Activision.
Hmm.
Well, then you're not going to buy Take Two. We're well aware of that, but you
Right.
get the marketing for something like Grand Theft Auto. And now what you have done is, and this might be disrespectful for some, PlayStation at that point does not exist because they have nothing coming out in 2024, from what we understand. And 2025, yes, Wolverine is going to be phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. But if they're not ready to go with like a Last of Us 3 or a Horizon 3, or
Hmm.
a follow-up to God of War. What are they gonna challenge a marketing deal, a new Call of Duty, and 3 other AAA, bangers? It's not looking good for Sony, folks,
It
and,
is not.
it's just not.
Hey, Boom.
Sir.
There was one of the thing you guys were talking about just a second ago, which was like all the games that are coming out that we know of
Mhm.
for Microsoft in 2024. And another one, Ron TJ and a bunch of others threw it up in the chat that it's Microsoft Flight Simulator 24.
Yeah, I
That's
saw that.
another one that's
Yeah,
first
I forgot
party.
about that.
That's
Thanks, Ron TJ, and whoever
yeah,
made mention of that. That's a
and
big one. Flight
and
Simulator is a
and I
big game.
guarantee you, Boom, there's probably going to be some kind of surprise throughout the year.
Mhm.
Won't necessarily be a shadow drop, but it'll be something that like you know, be one of those classic type Bethesda type drops. They'll be like, oh, and by the way, this is coming out in 3 months and it's ready to go and pre-order now. I'm like, what? I
The
mean, I
potential, yeah,
guarantee it.
absolutely.
Guarantee it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jason Max says Call of Duty Black Ops go for 2024 on Game Pass. Yeah, that's it's
Oh my
basically a
god.
done deal. That's going to be a big.
Yes.
That's going to be big. Let me catch up on the super chats before we move on to the other. So we have here Gerald Mack, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "I believe Microsoft has gotten over it. Shown by the moves they're making. It's the community that has the problem with letting it go." I mean, you're not wrong, and I think that see, my take is this, and I know that there are a lot of people that are trying to poke fun at Xbox gamers. That there are a couple of big YouTubers that like throwing like the crooked hats with Xbox fans crying. I don't think I saw any of the prominent Xbox community like crying over it. I think what you got was people were just disappointed because once again, even when Microsoft is hitting on all cylinders, they're still left behind the velvet rope. And it's unfortunate. It's unfair. And then we can. I don't want to really go down this road again because I just did it before. The bias is there. Whether you choose to believe that it's there, that's up to you. I'm not here to try to sell you a bill of goods. I have my opinion, and if yours differs, that is awesome. You're welcome here. As long as you're not an effing troll, you can hang around and you can have these opinions because no one's going to fight you on it because they're your opinions. Just don't be a D about it, and that goes for the Xbox players. Don't be a D about it. Don't act a fool because we don't tolerate that kind of behavior here in this house. The Robots Win, which is an amazing name, has become a new channel member. Thank you, kind sir. That's awesome of you. Homeless Bird, who's been a channel member for a month, says this. Boom, Halo question. Did you change any of your sensitivity settings? Despite my lack of skill, Halo has been a blast. Happy gaming panel and chat. Well, happy gaming to you, brother. No, I did not, but I will not use a regular controller. I do use an Elite. And I do have my half pull triggers, which are godsend when you're playing Halo because it's incredibly fast. I am going to say that the new TV that we got, the new Samsung, wow. I mean, folks, this is old gameplay, so it's not represented here. I did I checked the stats. The VRR is on, the 120 frames are on, and the HDR 10 plus is on. I honestly couldn't believe my eyes. Because I've never had an OLED. I had a QLED, but I was like, what have I been missing? And all I've been playing is Halo, which is crazy because I want to play Hogwarts and I want to. Oh, and by the way, I'm about to roll credits on Starfield. I finally got to the end, and that game has sucked me back in,
Nice.
man. Jeez, what a great game! Jesus Christmas. So listen, real quick, let's kind of segue, gentlemen. First of all, I want to welcome in 630 plus people here. That is amazing. If you are finding this channel, folks, for the first time, we are 312 subscribers away from 14K. Can we do it before the end of the year? I hope so. We were hoping for 15K, but we'll settle in on maybe 14 and some change by the end of the year. Again, if you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. I do this 5 days a week. This week's a little bit of an off-putting week because obviously we have the holiday, which I'm going to enjoy. And of course, while everyone is recovering from Thanksgiving and eating too much, because I know I'm going to, there will be a breakfast at Boom. I already have one person joining us in Pong Soul. And I'll add a couple of others so we kind of have a nice chill stream, kind of keep the conversation going, see if anyone got any Black Friday deals. But I want to segue, ladies and germs, into the fact that we know Baldur's Gate 3 got a ton of noms, right? And it's well deserving of it. Again, not for me, but I'm going to tell you this right now. If it goes into Game Pass, like I'm thinking it's going to go into Game Pass, because it makes sense. It makes perfect sense to get it in there. I'm going to try it. I'm definitely going to give it the old college effort. Again, as you can see by the charm hanging from my gun in Halo, I'm a D&D kid. I have been my whole life. I played the pen and paper game for years. I haven't played it in a while. I jumped into Magic the Gathering with that's a card game if you don't know, and I don't play anymore, but I still have my decks. It's just phenomenal. So I've always been a D&D kid. And I know that this is, you're rolling dice and, I've never played a CRPG, it's just not my bag. So I will give it a shot. But my question to you, Fuzzy, is, okay, so in my opinion, Xbox, according to the media, is limping into the Game Awards. And that may or may not be true. That depends on you personally. I think that they are marching in there, head held high, because they did a lot for their fans this year. Game Pass is worth its weight in gold. First party has delivered on all fronts. Yes, Redfall was a bit of the outlier, if you will. And again, I put 80 hours into it, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't broken or it didn't have problems. Sure, it had a ton of problems, but I still had fun with it. So for me, it's a winner-winner chicken dinner kind of situation. I think that if you want to really kind of put your stamp on the Game Awards, yes, you do show up with a couple of bombastic trailers, some of which we've seen. Like I think Senua needs to the story of Senua needs to be closed out. The game was announced with the Series X. Then we got the was some gameplay, most just in-game movie, in-game graphics. I'd like to see the trifecta. I'd like to see them release maybe 2 minutes of combat.
Mhm.
Right, get some actual combat, and then give us a date for the developers direct in January, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you close out her saga at the Game Awards. But with that, along with some potential, maybe we get a Gear 6 trailer. Maybe we do. I don't know. But whether we do or we don't, I think that if you show up at the Game Awards showing your wares, and we know that they have a lot baking, man. They have a lot baking. There's no doubt about it. But you can then take what is expected to be the game of the year, RPG of the year. Larian Studios delivers in the best way possible, and that game drops into Xbox Game Pass. I think it's an exclamation point, and I'm not going to curse, but it's a big fu to the gaming media, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would like to see, like you said, like a Hellblade 2 trailer as far as the combat, and at the end of it, lead into what the date would be for the developer direct. But I think another way to kind of, give them the middle finger to some extent is show off, I believe it's nickname or codename Overdose, which is the game from Kojima. That's his best friend,
That's a dude. That's
so
I
what
didn't
better
even
way
think
to
about that. That's genius.
show that game there? Don't even tell Keeley that that's the one that's being shown. Just show it.
Kojima-san.
Yeah,
Well, we know that Phil's going to be there, and it would be
yeah.
pretty fitting for Phil to walk out on stage with Kojima. That's dude, man. You should work for marketing, brother. Somebody hire this bald man. This is beautiful.
No, but I think that's like for the Game Awards for what they are. I think that would be a memorable moment, and I think that's a way to say, okay, you want to ignore us? Well, you can't ignore us from this point forward. Have Kojima's game being shown there. I'm under the gut impression that we'll probably see Death Stranding, so he's going to be in the neighborhood. So we'll see Death Stranding too. What better way to show that maybe this is the better Kojima game than to have the Overdose shown that same night? So
interesting.
I think that's something to definitely kind of get some conversations going. But as far as like Hellblade, like I honestly think we do get to see something of it. I would love to see something about Perfect Dark, but if it's not ready, it's not ready. But as far as Hellblade, just show that not even like, I guess 30 seconds of the combat, and then go into more detail as far as the combat in the developer direct that, in January or February or whatever. And I think that's a good way to kind of end the showing of Hellblade there. And then hopefully the next time Hellblade 2 makes an appearance at the Game Awards, it's nominated for Game of the Year, for 2024. But those are going to be some key things that I hope that they do show off as far as game trailers that they have in the works. But there's just so many things. Like, no one's really talked about Contraband in a while. I know Aura is one of those games that's PC only release first, and then it'll come to console. But we haven't heard about Project Mara in a while. We haven't heard about oh man, it just slipped my mind. But like what is it, the IO Interactives game that they're working with
Project Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is the 007 game. I don't know, but I could have sworn the Project Dragon was supposed to be more fantasy realm or like high fantasy type of game. But that game is, to my understanding, been in development for a couple of years already. Contraband has definitely been in development for a couple of years already. We kind of also forgot about the fighting game, the
Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, the Wu-Tang Clan game,
it's another one
that's in the works. So it may not be something that would be considered, Game of the Year nomination worthy, but it would definitely spark a conversation because I don't care what age group you're in, you probably have heard of Wu-Tang Clan and have at least enjoyed a couple of the songs. And if you have a fighting game that kind of harkens to either like the old Def Jam fighting games or even like a fight night type game, I think that would be enough of a surprise from left field kind of thing to kind of get people talking. But yeah, it definitely lead Hellblade into the dev direct type of deal for next month, which if that becomes the norm, that at the beginning of the year we can expect to see, what might be the first half of the upcoming year. Great. But it's definitely going to be interesting next year when, possibly Avowed is released and like people had made mention, Flight Sim 2024 is definitely going to be in that sim category or sim sports or whatever they tend to merge everything into. But yeah, that should be a pretty decent one as well. But yeah, I for the most part, between the emails we've seen from the court cases, and we know Phil is a shrewd businessman with the price cutting he did with the negotiation for ABK. We already know that Sarah Bond is a great negotiator as well, working
You
with
mean
a
the
lot
Great
of the
White
teams
Shark, Sarah Bond? Yes.
yeah. And working with a lot of those dev teams in the East, which that's another thing. We might even see some of the fruits of that labor as well, as far as some of the dev teams that they've been working with in the East, as far as bringing that to Xbox. And uh, a lot of surprises are in the works as far as whether it's game studios in Korea or game studios and new game studios in Japan. I think there's something that we'll probably get to see soon. We all know about Wukong, Black Myth, Wukong coming to PC, I guess, next year. It'd be nice if it comes to Xbox, side by side. We just got an update on the Armor Reforger, which is like, everybody's kind of waiting for, I guess it's Armor 4. And this is like the predecessor kind of test model that I guess we can now get more of the mods than we could before. It was kind of like in early access prior, but now I guess it's more of a, I wouldn't say finished product, but a moddable product that some of the PC mods will be available on console as well. So see how that goes for anybody that's into like, war sims or a more less of a Call of Duty approach to first person shooters and things like that. But yeah, they got a lot of stuff that they could probably unpack and make the focal point of the award show. I mean, we all know Baldur's Gate is going to be big. Having that come to Game Pass would be a huge announcement. But as far as the overall, I think outside of Baldur's Gate's shine, Xbox will probably be the next biggest talking point. Baldur's Gate walking away with at least four awards. Yeah. Xbox with upcoming hardware, games, game trailers, dev directs, possibly a shadow drop or whatever the case may be. Things like that, I think will definitely change the conversation a good bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like I said, I think that they literally are so loaded that there's going to come a point where you're not going to be able to deny that they are there, in the same space as a Nintendo or PlayStation. I think that this, like I said, for me, I don't know how much it would cost to get this game in, because obviously this would have been decided well before they were getting all these nods. But I think Phil Spencer knew that this is one of those games that was going to be nominated potentially upwards of double-digit times, which it almost was, and win a significant amount of those awards if they can. So obviously, if you're reading the room, and I know Phil knows how to read the room very well, you look at that and you say, yeah, something. The big story was Baldur's Gate had to skip Xbox because of the Series S. And then we learned all of those weeks later, where they were working hard to get this game out in December, that it was because of Little Man that they were going to bring advancements to Series X and PS5 as well as PC, right? They learned how to, that this overhead existed in there. And they were going to make the game even better, thanks to, of course, the potato, which everyone was like, oh, no, it's a potato. It shouldn't exist. Well, congratulations, your Baldur's Gate 3 experience is going to get better because of the potato, right? So there you go. But I think that for talking points, if you want to be a part of the ongoing conversation, besides something like Hi-Fi Rush walking away with a couple of awards, which I think it's going to win. Obviously, you don't know the sports racing thing. You'd like to believe Motorsport is going to win that because it is the best game that's in there. But again, this is a popularity contest and not really on merit. And they'll, a few of the other categories that they were announced that they were maybe they walk away with half. Man, out of the 10, they walk away with 5. But again, in that same conversation of how did Xbox do for you as a platform fan, you walk away with 5 awards, right? Which is great. You get half. You walk away with half of the awards, versus the 10 noms. On top of that, you got an announcement of some games that we knew were in the pipeline, some that we didn't. Right? You got a couple of surprises there, and the cherry on top of the banana boat Sunday for everyone is the fact that Baldur's Gate 3, Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, RPG of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, in Xbox Game Pass today. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's ready to rock and roll on December 5th. I don't know. They said December. I don't know how, is it December 5th? Is it December 25th? Maybe this is the Christmas gift that we all wanted, that we didn't know we actually wanted. Listen, I don't know, but I think that for the talking, if you want mind share, and that's what this is all about, right? This is what business is all about. Getting the people talking about your platform. And Dave, you're our business guy here. Is there an importance to get Baldur's Gate into Xbox Game Pass at the Game Awards announced, whether it's dropped there or a week later, it doesn't matter. The announcement itself that the Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, is dropping into Game Pass, when Sony players who said they were going to support this, because they're all about supporting the dev, right? That's their tagline, and they didn't. Obviously, it sold terrible on PlayStation. They're going to get people like myself to potentially play the game, because I wouldn't buy it because it's just not a game that I would play. But if it's in Game Pass, I give it the old college effort. And if I don't like it, okay, I delete it off the hard drive. No harm, no foul. What do you think about this, man?
Well, I think it would be a very smart move if Phil was able to do that. I mean, that conversation that Phil had, obviously, to get the team in there to figure stuff out. And then the revelation that after they were in there, they were like, oh my gosh, we didn't know you did it this way, and it makes it that much better, which kind of opens it up to other games in the future taking advantage of the hardware that's available to them that most people just didn't use, which was the I guess the DirectX 11, 12, whichever one it was, some of the features of it that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
DirectX 12, that'll make it easier and give them more room to put in, higher frame rates, better graphics, better stuff. And it's like, since that's kind of been unlocked, even though apparently it was there, it's just people just didn't, for whatever reason, some of the developers didn't quite get it. Microsoft showed them, well, this is what you need to do. And then they did a test on it, and they're like, holy crap, it's going to be great. So the big thing is that there's a lot of, and I'm not saying, look, I'm you, me, Fuzzy, we all have PlayStations. Love the games on there. But it's the quote unquote fanboys that don't get it and that are so anti everything else that they were just like, well, it's exclusive for the PlayStation. Never was going to be exclusive, never was. Had a little thing, but doesn't that make it exclusive if it's not on this console? Well, yeah, wait till they, at the award show, and if it probably it's going to win some awards. If it wins the big one, good on them, especially if they're, oh, by the way, it's coming to Game Pass, whatever, December 31st or whatever, or December 25th or whatever day they want to put it in, or right now. It's, as soon as you leave the show, by the way, it's in Game Pass, available for you to download. If you're a subscriber to Game Pass, you'll get full access to the game on PC, console, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff. That would absolutely, I'll put it this way. Microsoft has the opportunity with this and with other games we've talked about in the Game Pass discussion to turn around the narrative of, of, oh, Microsoft didn't get, Game of the Year nomination. But by the end of the show, they have the possibility to make the award show everybody talks about is going to be what Microsoft had at the award show. And if they do it right, that'll be a big win because all these eyes on them. Everybody's like, oh, they have nothing last year. And all these millions of people watching the show. And if Microsoft takes full advantage of it this year, dude, that is financially the smartest thing that they can do. Especially, I mean, let's face it. If Baldur's Gate wins Game of the Year, that means that Spider-Man 2 didn't.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of fanboys butthurt by that. There's a lot of Nintendo fanboys that are already like, oh, it's going to be Zelda. It's going to be. They don't realize that since both of those big games from Nintendo are both in contention for Game of the Year, there's going to be a split vote.
Yep.
There's going to be people that'll be like, oh, yeah, we're really big on this game. And it's actually, if people vote for Super Mario and not everybody voting for Zelda, it's going to hurt them. Hands down, is going to hurt them because you can only vote once and you can only vote for one game. Can't vote for all Nintendo games for Game of the Year. You can only vote for one. Well, it's going to be very interesting what happens. And if Spider-Man wins, then you might as well just forget it, that everything is completely rigged and take it out with the bathwater and never watch the show again. Just saying.
No, I mean it's look, Spider-Man's a good game. It's not Baldur's Gate 3 good. Again, that game is not for me, folks. I'll be the first one to tell you. But anyone that I've talked to that has fallen in love with that game has amazing things to say about it. Mario Wonders is phenomenal. It's honestly, I'm stunned on how, even though this franchise is 40 years old, that they have figured out a way to do a lot of new things that I've never seen done before. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is, and again, I put a significant amount of time. I'm at one of the last bosses before Ganon. Like, I put a lot of time into it, and I loved it as much as I loved the original. And so I know a lot of people like push back on, oh, boom, but it's really more of like a glorified DLC. I mean, I wouldn't fight you on that, but I think that the building mechanic really does give you like a lot of new things to do. Like, some really, like, if you are like you have a good imagination, you could build things that you've just never seen in a Zelda game before. So it deserves to be there. I'll put it this way: all the games deserve to be there. The only one that I kind of push back on, and folks, you know me, I'm a diehard Resident Evil fan. I don't know if a remake deserves to be in the Game of the Year nominee. I am going to say with full authority that because RE4 got into the Game of the Year nods, it's almost telegraphed that The Last of Us 2 remake is going to get into the Game of the Year conversation, which I don't know, man. If that happens, and I think it's going to happen, I think that if your wish for the Game Awards ever like actually being legitimately thought upon as non-biased is just the doors are just the wheels are gonna fall off. That's what I'm gonna say about that. First of all, before we get to the last topic of the show, folks, I got to thank, first of all, Juan in the chat, who's not only become a channel member himself, folks, he has gifted 10 double barrel gaming memberships. Juan, that is incredibly kind of you, brother, and very generous. Thank you for not only becoming a member, but of course, allowing others to become members because of your generosity, brother. That is, again, kind and generous, and we appreciate it thoroughly. But I'll move on to the last topic, Fuzzy Belvedere. Look, one of the things that I thought was almost instant, like some people's coffee, was that the minute Microsoft was going to own Call of Duty, it was going to be one of the worst reviewed Call of Duties in the history of Call of Duty. And like clockwork, it did. Now, I know there's going to be some people in the chat that are going to push back and say, well, boom, the single player really didn't hit because they added some Warzone elements. See, here's the thing. I don't play Warzone. In fact, I barely play Call of Duty, even though they made me buy they didn't make me buy, but my conscience made me buy the Ash Williams skin from Evil Dead. And I played about 10 matches, and I'm like, yeah, it's Call of Duty. It's Call of Duty. It doesn't really, but when you talk to someone like a John Wolf is invested in Call of Duty, and that's his bag. He's really good at it, and he plays it all the freaking time. And when you if you trust places like, I don't know, Charlie Intel, one of the most premier places on Twitter to get any and all Call of Duty news, reviews, and opinions. Well, according to Charlie Intel, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's online is the best it's ever been since from Black Ops 3. Now, I don't play Call of Duty, so I can't really attest to that, but that's what they're saying, and I trust Charlie Intel because, well, they're Charlie Intel.
Yeah.
So, we started to see some of these hit pieces, Game Rant being one of them, telling us that Call of Duty is dead and we need to move on, right? Obviously IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, which is okay. I mean, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but look, I'm not angry. I could give a flying shit. I don't play Call of Duty. I played a single player, which I did. And you know something? One of the things that I really, really freaking liked about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's campaign was those stupid orange boxes all over the place. I found every gun in the game. It was a 90-point achievement, and it took me 3 days to do it. Like I had one effing tool that I could not find that I actually had to. So I'm not gonna lie, folks. I went to YouTube and I followed a guide because I was like, I've already given up 3 days. I can't give up any more time. There's too much to play. So I got my 90-point achievement. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Finding Gatling guns and silent snipers and all this other different tools that I could use to tackle this mission were dope. I loved it. I don't think it's the greatest Call of Duty of all time, but it was. I spent a significant amount of time playing it. I quite enjoyed it. So with that said, is Call of Duty dead?
I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat. Yeah, you won't physically see me put it on, but I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat because I think it's hilarious that a lot of these media outlets are somehow putting the blame on Xbox or Microsoft or Call of Duty in general for this whole ordeal. Not once do they mention Jim Ryan, trying to break this deal up, being part of the problem, or Sony's interference of this deal being the reason why this game was kind of thrown together. Like, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, this game was supposed to be DLC. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was already claimed before, all the pushback from the Sony camp on things. And then miraculously, this became a full game. And I joked about it before when we were talking about the ABK deal, and everybody's like, oh, it's not going through. And we were always like, yeah, it's going through. It's just a matter of time or, either forcing it over the CMA or whatever the case may be. But I always used to joke about, them making this a full-on game is a big FU or middle finger to Sony, because this gets them out of that contract a lot earlier where they don't have to provide a full game, in 2024. So if we're going to blame anything, it only was put together in 16 months and all that other stuff. Let's not be coy about it. Let's put the blame where it belongs, and Sony being the ones where if they had just gone along with this deal all along, because it was an inevitability, sure, that it was in their best interest to try to fight it, or at least they thought it was, but they wound up getting a lesser deal. If we're going to blame anything on this game being less than what was expected, blame Sony. And if you're a Sony fan and you think otherwise, then look at how things are going to be moving forward. If this doesn't get listed as one of those games where, well, it was kind of like a send-in game kind of thing, but all these other ones are a lot more polished. I know people will bring up Redfall and whatnot or Crackdown and stuff, but there are some games that'll slip through the cracks. I don't think Call of Duty will ever be one that'll slip through the cracks again. this is just a one-off because of Sony kind of, being in the way of progress for that whole ABK deal. So that, all of that aside, if the actual sites or fan sites or news sites that follow Call of Duty, like Charlie Intel, are the ones telling you this is, in regards to the player base, one of the better multiplayer versions of Call of Duty. A lot of people are liking certain things, although the whole skill based matchmaking is becoming an issue now because some of the content creators are either getting smoked or whatever the case may be. So they got to get their fans crying about the skill based matchmaking. But all of that aside, if the ones that normally follow this are saying this is one of the better ones for multiplayer, then I would tend to believe them because they're the ones that's in the trenches playing the game more or in with the community, getting the feedback from the community. And like I said, the skill-based matchmaking seems like more of a content creator complaint that spills into their fan base, complaining about the same thing. We've seen similar things with Destiny. We've seen similar things with other multiplayer games. We'll see how it pans out. If Call of Duty gets rid of skill-based matchmaking, then I think it will be worse for it in the grand scheme of things. But, people can have Smurf accounts or play terribly so they can, clean the floor with the lesser players that they get matched up with later. But when you're a content creator and let's say now all of the sweats are playing this game nonstop because this is a better Call of Duty multiplayer game, then maybe that explains why they're crying. But conspiracy theories aside, let's call it how we see it. But when it comes to the single player aspect, it's meant to be a shorter experience. Hopefully, Microsoft and Activision moving forward can put more emphasis on the story aspect or the single player aspect, whether that means taking, a year off each year or every other year off or something to that effect. I think that might be, what's best in the cards for the future of this. But all things considered, it's like clockwork. When Microsoft gets involved in something, it's always a bad situation. Like we saw the whole deal with AI, and I'm pretty sure there will be scathing reviews as far as Chat GPT, more so than now that Microsoft has the CEO formerly from Chat GPT or OpenAI now as an employee, and a lot of their employees are going over to Microsoft. So AI will be bad again, apparently, even though.
Yes, it's going to be it's going to be awful because Microsoft now owns the company. Yeah, you'll see the hit pieces. Yep.
Yeah. But it's without fail. Microsoft is always the big bad guy, even though Bill Gates hasn't run that company in almost 2 decades now. So it's like maybe even 3 decades if I'm doing my math right. But he still has that cloud that carries over Microsoft because of it and stuff like that. But everybody's fine with Apple, even though they haven't really innovated and since Jobs died. But hey, that's a whole nother story. But all things aside, I would say it's only a matter of time before they try to nitpick at World of Warcraft as well. Now it's a Microsoft IP. It's only a matter of time. Well, they've already tried to nitpick at Diablo, and even though Diablo's on the upswing because they've listened to their community and course corrected some of the mistakes that they made from their shortly after launch and stuff. But I'm pretty sure Call of Duty will do the same. And at some point, what game will the gaming media go to as far as for a first person shooter that they enjoy? I mean, there's still Apex Legends out there, but it doesn't seem like they're as interested in that. Plus, I guess the numbers show it's not as much of a clickbait media kind of topic because there isn't as much attention to it. People aren't searching for Apex Legends as much as Call of Duty. Yeah, they're searching for Apex Legends, but it's like a 20-1 kind of scenario where Call of Duty is that behemoth out there that every year people are like, hey, what's the latest Call of Duty? Hey, what deals are out there? Is it bundled with this console that I haven't bought a next gen console yet? Where is it bundled? And Black Friday deals are pretty much started already, so it's going to fall on deaf ears when it comes to the casuals. But the general gaming media about moving on from stuff, it's like, when will they move on from The Last of Us? Like, how many times do you need a remaster to feel good about a game that you've already played less than 5 years ago. So I would think it'd be time for Naughty Dog to move on from The Last of Us, but I could be wrong. But all things aside, it's to be expected. The gaming media is going to, nitpick everything associated with Microsoft or Xbox, and show how eventually it's going to seem like they're irrelevant when it comes to the fan base still playing that game and enjoying it. Like every year, there's been a complaint about Call of Duty prior, but they never talked about really moving on. It was always about, oh, the cancel, slide cancel, or the
That's
Spawn.
the hot topic now. Apparently, your stamina doesn't replenish as it did in the beta because of the slide. It only starts up after you start. Like, gee, like, my God, just say you hate Xbox. Just honestly, instead of faking the funk, folks, instead of trying to do the mysticism like Doctor Strange to erase our memories, just for these entities, just come out and say, you know what? I'm going to throw it to the wind. F Microsoft and Xbox. That's it. That's how I feel. That's how it needs to happen, because hiding behind these falsities and these masks it's just tiresome already.
Yeah. But at some point, they're going to have to switch gears and start, praising stuff that people are actually still buying and playing and enjoying. So,
I mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. Wasn't and isn't still Call of Duty #1 selling on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC?
I think see, here's the thing that's weird. Call of Duty has already come out, and it was the top selling game for the year, I think, when it came out. The only game that's rivaling it right now is another game that got snubbed, which is Hogwarts Legends, Hogwarts Legacy. But that's because it came on Switch. So, of course, finally, people that are looking to play it on the go are going to buy it. But I think long term, Hogwarts Legacy is the only thing that's going to rival Call of Duty this year in sales. And if you look at a game that's been crapped on by the gaming media and still outsells something that the gaming media wants to ignore, I don't know. Maybe the gaming media should realize how irrelevant they are if the game that they ignore and the game that they crap on outdo everything else out there on the market. Just saying.
I mean, listen, we got to call a spade here, folks. The gaming media's agenda is to keep Sony in first place. And you say, well, why is that? What is the loyalty factor? Well, it's money, folks. It's money. We know that Sony heavily invests in these news gaming sites. They're 40+%, upwards of 46% for IGN, PC Game Mag, for GameSpot. That's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. I guarantee if someone actually took the time, and it ain't going to be me, that would go in to see exactly how much ad rev is coming in from PlayStation, you will be able to paint a really skewed picture of, wow, no wonder IGN is trying to keep their thumb. They have their thumb on the scale, folks. So does so most of these sites. The thumb is on the scale for PlayStation. It's being, it won't be like that for Xbox. Even if they deliver on all 3 years of bangers, even if next year every one of their games are a 90 by everyone else, IGN is going to figure out a way. Listen, I've said this before. Mark this on your calendars, folks. When Elder Scrolls 6 releases, whenever the F that's going to be, I am telling you, IGN has already bookmarked a 7. That game is going to get a 7. That thing may change your life as a person, and it's going to get a 7 from IGN. I'm sorry. That's just I have no faith in the gaming media. They have told us where their truths lie, and it's not telling you the truth. It's just not. I'm sorry. Dave, let's get your hot take on this. Is Call of Duty one of the best-selling games of the year dead? Should we all just walk away and ask for better?
I think it's ludicrous to say that the game is not going to be good and that it's not good and we all need to step away from it. It is clearly meant for people to to try and put it in their minds that it's not good and we need to move on and move on and move on. And there's a lot of, I'm saying it again, sorry, fanboys that are like, come on, let's all, let's all get the exclusive for the EA game Battlefield, and let's build it up and let's put it to take over the Call of Duty thing. And then a lot of them were like some of them that were saying that it's the more, this was a fanboy perspective of a Sony fanboy person saying, the more you buy this game and the more you play it, the more you're feeding the Xbox machine. Exactly, because that's the reason, one of the reasons Microsoft did it. It's business and it makes sense, and that's how you get money to compete, to be able to grow games. Jim Ryan said it himself, if they get Call of Duty, we're going to be in big trouble. And the reason for that is, and he even said that a lot of their first party games that they made were based off the budgets that they were able to bring in from being able to people to buying Call of Duty on their platform. Well, they're still going to make some money with it on their platform. It's just a matter of all the main revenue doesn't go to Activision's coffers, because they go right into Microsoft's coffers, and they can do with that money whatever they want. And it's insane to think that this game is not going to sell good. We can already tell that it's going to be on fire. Will another game beat it? It is possible, but look at the track record for the last couple of years. Call of Duty on the PlayStation has been like number one, and like the game before, the year before, was like number 5 for last year's total sales on PlayStation. I mean, the writing is on the wall, people. That's all there is to it. It's the money maker is Microsoft, because they're doing better business decisions. And there's, like I said, there's a reason why they went after this money, why they spent all this money. It wasn't just because of oh, we got to do something. It's a smart business move, and it's going to pan out. And over the next couple of years, we're really going to see it. And I believe that the Call of Duty game itself, over the next couple of years, as Microsoft figures out how they're gonna do it to comply with making sure that it's a good environment, and that people that want to work on it really want to work on it, that they're going to have a better product in the long run, even better than they have now in the future. Hopefully by next year, it'll be drastically different, to where no matter what the I guess what I'm saying is that no matter what the critics say, it's the people that play it and what their wallet speaks with. And we know already that they're speaking volumes that they love Call of Duty.
Well, this particular version that was shunned by IGN, who gave it a 4, right? Obviously,
Yep.
we know for a fact that it's that people are still playing it. People are playing it in droves. It has some of the most engagement it's had in years. So, look, at the end of the day, folks, don't be sold a false bag of goods from these gaming sites. Use them like they use you. If you find something interesting, you want to read it, you click on it. That's all they really care about. But if you see if they're going for the clickbait, don't even waste your time, because these are opinion pieces from people that have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe in what if you don't believe the bag of what that they're selling, then don't even bother clicking on it. They're going to push back as much as they can, and there is going to come a point, like, people are like, when is Xbox going to get their due? Well, you know what? Honestly, I don't think Xbox really cares whether or not someone says something nice about them, as long as they're making money and their investors are happy, and ultimately they're making money hand over fist. Like I said in the opening of the show, folks, you got to remember, with this ABK deal, right? They have moved shoulder to shoulder with Apple and Google in the mobile space. They have literally moved shoulder to shoulder with what's going to happen on Steam in the PC space. And when you consider the amount of monies that's going to have them leapfrogging over Sony, which has been reported by Jez Corden, again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. they are making money hand over fist, and they're going to leapfrog for the first time ever, make more money than PlayStation because of this deal. So yeah, you're going to see, you will continue to see, even when they're hitting on all cylinders, these companies, these hacks of game journalism, if you can even call it that, are going to do their damnedest to keep their thumb on the scale. There is going to come a point where they're just going to have to. They're going to be assimilated, like the Borg. They're just going to have to. They really are. You're going to potentially, because of just so many great things happening for the brand, that for Xbox, you may see a resurgence, a reluctant resurgence to the Xbox 360 days, but we will actually, only time is going to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's Xbox lunch break special. Of course, I had an amazing time. I want to say a big thank you to all of the super chats. And we have two more that popped in here before we get on out. Drawn TJ drops a $5 super chat and says, I hate to break it to you, but there is no skill-based matchmaking, because one match I'm winning and the next I'm getting smoked. I mean, they have to fix that. If that's an actual problem, they got to fix that. Chris R drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, while I don't think the Xbox should be blamed for Call of Duty, I do think it's important to demand better than what Activision normally puts out moving forward. Oh, 1,000%, dude. Like, if you are in a camp where you feel that this game is a sloth, and it was thrown together to basically complete a contract, which Sony kind of forced the envelope to do, like Fuzzy Belvedere said, you have to demand better. I don't play Call of Duty. I play for the single player. That's what I play it for. And quite frankly, I really, really enjoyed myself with the single player, even though it had more Warzone than it did traditional Call of Duty. But I liked it. So Fuzzy Belvedere, let's do the outros, and we'll start first with you, sir, please, as we try to get you to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And folks, if you believe me, if you trust me, if you enjoy the work I'm putting down, I'm here to tell you that you're going to enjoy the work that is going into Fuzzy Belvedere's YouTube channel. And folks, I'm telling you, please, for the love of Joe, sub this man's channel. Let's get him to 1K. I know you can do it. Tell everyone for the best place of anything and everything racing. And more importantly, where could they reach out to you on social media?
Oh, just want to thank you for having me on. Always awesome being on here with you guys. You and Web Dave, always love your guys' opinions and feedback and thoughts on things, and just love, this early Monday, beginning of the week, intro into what's, hot in gaming news. I always love doing this show, so greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Always love interacting with you guys. Sometimes we can get a little slanderous and stuff, but it's always in good fun, and always love hearing the feedback from those in the chat as well. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on YouTube. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word, and you'll be able to find me. I'm also going to be on FSP later on tonight on Fun Speculations channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. And then for Friday, hope to have all of you guys back here for Xbox lunch, for Breakfast with Boom. Boom, I'll probably be available for Friday. Just awesome. We're having family over at the house and then pushing them out the door Thursday night. So Friday will be pretty much relaxed. I've already done my Christmas shopping.
That got to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Shout out to LAD in the chat. Says incredible lunch break special and panel, brother. Thank you so much for the kind words. But yeah, it's awesome, brother. We'll like I said, as we get closer to the end of the week, there's going to be more news breaking. And of course, we are going to have the conversation with Pong Soul and maybe a few others. Maybe we can get Mav or somebody on. Maybe we can get Ice Steel Rain if he's available. We'll put a nice panel together for you folks to kind of hang. And again, it's going to be a chill stream. I don't think there's going to be any like major breaking news, but we'll figure out something to talk about. There's been so much news, but look forward to you, Fuzzy Belvedere, obviously. And you have a good Thanksgiving on Thursday, and we'll see you Friday morning. And Web Dave, who will not be joining us on Friday because he's going to be spending time with his family, as he should. Web Dave, sell the brand of the Gamers Council podcast, which you had last night. Two amazing guests, both primetime gaming alumni.
That's right.
Talk about that, and more importantly, where can people check out the best place for anything and everything when it comes to one-on-one content, sir?
Well, thank you so much, Boom. I appreciate you having me on. I do. I'm going to record an episode here in a little while of the one-on-one show, and that will drop next Monday, and that'll be with K Mega. Looking forward to that. He's an interesting cat. We'll be talking to him, find out more about him, and then of course, last night's show we had the Mag, and we had the Wandering Dutch, which was great, and of course we got a little salty, a little crazy, a little fun, and then next Sunday's show to round out the holiday weekend, we'll have a special guest, Hargeet Chani, and another one to be disclosed at the time. We're still working on their schedule, see if they can work it out. So it's gonna be good times, and again, I can't thank you enough for all the time I've been on here, and of course, working with Fuzzy is actually a treat. He's a great guy, great opinions. And I put his in the chat too, guys. If you can, I guess the first goal would be 500 for Fuzzy. We need to get him to 500. That should be a no-brainer. Everybody in the chat, go to Fuzzy's channel, just subscribe, man. You will not regret it at all. It is awesome, man. Especially on racing games and other games as well too. He knows his stuff. So please, let's get him to 500, and then we'll get him to a K. All right.
I like it. Yeah.
Thanks,
goals, folks.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, brother. Okay, folks. Well, listen, again, thank you so much for tuning in. We had over 650 people here. That is amazing. We truly appreciate you stopping by to check out. Hopefully you enjoyed the honest and fair conversation. And of course, while you're still here, folks, before you get out the door, hit the like button, because it does help us in the YouTube algorithm, whatever the H that is. But, you know, it is wacky. And, you know what, the more people that get to check out Double Barrel Gaming, the more that we'll get into these, navigate the algorithm. And of course, I want to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.